What happened when my older son got his girlfriend pregnant? I have 2 sons. My youngest Mason still thinks putting ketchup on eggs is normal, but my oldest son Tyler, 17 years old. Good kid, part-time job, decent grades. Always says, yes sir. He'd even been saving money because he wanted to buy his first car someday. So naturally I figured my biggest problem that weekend would be the lawnmower, which hated me personally. That thing broke every other Tuesday. Meanwhile, my wife was grocery shopping. Mason was inside watching cartoons. And Tyler told me he was heading to the mall with some friends. Normal teenager stuff. Nothing suspicious. Or at least that's what I thought. About an hour later, I heard a car pull into the driveway. I looked up expecting Tyler. Instead, I saw Tyler and Emma. Now, I've known his girlfriend Emma for almost a year. Sweet girl, polite. Always brought cookies during holidays. The kind of teenager that says thank you without being reminded. But today, Emma looked terrified. And Tyler somehow looked even worse. Immediately, my dad's senses started tingling. Because teenagers only show up looking like that when somebody broke something. Or somebody ruined their future. I walked over and asked, everything okay? Neither of them answered. Bad sign. Then Emma started crying even harder. Tyler just stared at the ground. And that's when my blood pressure started preparing for battle. I said, boy, if you're joining a gang, just tell me now. He shakes his head. No, Dad. Did you crash the car? No. Did you fail school? No. Then this child says, can we sit down first? Parents know that's never good. Nobody has ever said, can we sit down first, before announcing something wonderful. So we went inside. And my younger son Mason saw everybody crying. And immediately started crying too. This kid cries during dog food commercials. I still don't understand it. Emma sat on the couch shaking. Tyler grabbed her hand. And suddenly I knew. My soul had already packed its bags. Then Tyler quietly said, Dad, Emma's pregnant. I swear I stopped breathing. I looked at the ceiling. Looked at Jesus. Looked back at Tyler. Then looked at Jesus again because I needed backup. Emma started apologizing. Tyler started apologizing. Meanwhile, Mason whispered, what's pregnant? I said, go watch cartoons. Emma's crying. Tyler's crying. And somehow I'm the only person in the room paying taxes. I sit down, take a deep breath, then ask, okay, is this some kind of prank? Tyler shakes his head. Emma quietly pulls a pregnancy test out of her purse. 2 pink lines. I felt my ancestors leave my body. I whispered, Lord, I don't even ask for much. Emma says, I'm so sorry, Mr. Wilson. And honestly, that broke my heart, because she looked absolutely terrified. Then Tyler says, Dad, I promise I'm going to take responsibility. I stared at him. Son, you still ask me how to fill your gas tank. Before he could answer, the front door opens. My wife walks inside carrying groceries. She sees everybody crying, and immediately says, what happened? Nobody answers. Then she looks at Tyler, and moms somehow have superpowers, because after 2 seconds she goes, oh no. Emma bursts into tears again. Tyler quietly says, Mom, Emma's pregnant. My wife freezes, slowly puts the groceries down, looks at me, looks at Tyler, and says, tell me you're joking. Tyler shakes his head, and I swear I saw my wife's soul leave her body and file for divorce from reality. She sits down beside Emma and hugs her. Meanwhile, I'm still buffering. My wife asks, have you told your parents yet? Emma shakes her head. No, ma'am. My wife closes her eyes, and I already know what's coming, because moms always do the reasonable thing, which is annoying. She says, we need to call her mother. And that's when Tyler turned white, because apparently telling us was terrifying, but telling Emma's mother, that was Armageddon. And honestly, I wasn't sure I was emotionally prepared either, because every parent knows one thing. No phone call in history has ever started with, hi, can you come over? Nothing's wrong. And about 30 minutes later, Emma's parents pulled into our driveway. And judging by the speed of that car, her dad definitely broke at least 6 traffic laws getting here, and that's when things somehow got even worse. Emma's parents walked into our house looking like they were about to attend a funeral. Her mother looked worried. Her father looked dangerous. Now I've known Mr. Parker a couple times. Nice man, quiet, works construction, built his own deck. The kind of guy who doesn't say much, which somehow makes him scarier. He walks inside, sees Emma crying, sees me looking like I've aged 10 years in one afternoon. Then he slowly asks, somebody want to explain what's happening? Emma immediately bursts into tears. Her mom rushes over. Baby, what's wrong? And before anyone else can speak, Emma whispers, Mom, I'm pregnant? Silence. Complete silence. Even Mason stopped eating goldfish crackers. Emma's mother covered her mouth. But her dad? That man just blinked, then looked directly at Tyler. Oh Lord, I stepped between them so fast I almost pulled a hamstring, because I wasn't about to let 2 fathers end up on the evening news. Mr. Parker takes a deep breath, looks at Tyler, and asks, Son, are you going to take responsibility? Tyler doesn't even hesitate. Yes, sir. Are you sure? Yes, sir. You understand your life just changed? Yes, sir. Then this child actually says, I love Emma. And for the first time all day, nobody yelled. Emma's dad just sat down, rubbed his face, and whispered, I had plans for retirement. His wife immediately smacked his arm. Our daughter is pregnant, and you're thinking about retirement? He says, I was supposed to buy a fishing boat, Susan. Honestly, I felt that. Because 3 hours earlier, my biggest problem was a lawnmower. Now I'm discussing grandchildren. Meanwhile, Mason whispers, what's a grandbaby? Nobody answered him. Poor kid was surviving entirely on confusion. How far along are you? Emma quietly answered, about 8 weeks. My wife squeezed her hand, and suddenly the room felt different. Because all the anger, all the panic, it started turning into sadness. Emma looked terrified. Tyler looked terrified. And honestly, they were still just kids. Then Mr. Parker asked the question every father eventually asks. So what exactly is your plan? Tyler swallowed hard and said, I'll get more hours at work. I nearly fainted, because this boy complains every time I ask him to take out the trash. Now suddenly he's talking about responsibility. Emma quietly says, I still want to finish school. My wife immediately says, and you will. Emma starts crying again. Really? My wife hugs her. Of course. And I realized something. No matter how angry we were, no matter how disappointed we felt, the situation wasn't changing. The baby wasn't disappearing. These two needed help. Then Tyler looked at me. Dad? I looked back. Yeah? I'm sorry. And that was the moment I stopped being angry. Because this kid wasn't smiling. He wasn't making excuses. He looked absolutely broken. I sighed. Son, I'm disappointed. His eyes immediately filled with tears. But I'm still your dad. And that's when Tyler started crying. Emma started crying. My wife started crying. Emma's mom started crying. Even I got emotional. Meanwhile, Mason looked around and said, should I cry too? I said, no, son. He nodded. Okay. Then 5 seconds later, he started crying anyway. I swear this kid is powered entirely by emotions. Eventually, everybody calmed down. And just when I thought the worst was over, Tyler quietly said, there's something else. Every adult in the room froze, because nothing good has ever followed those words. I slowly turned toward him. What do you mean, something else? Tyler looked terrified. Emma looked embarrassed. Then he whispered, we haven't told Grandma yet. And suddenly, every person in that house said the exact same thing. Oh no. Because my mother? That woman once grounded me at 23 years old. And somehow, breaking the news to Grandma sounded scarier than the pregnancy itself. Now let me explain something about my mother. That woman is 5'2", retired, loves crossword puzzles, bakes cookies every Sunday, and somehow still scares me. I'm 46 years old. Pay my own bills, own my own house. And I still sit up straighter when she says my full name. So when Tyler mentioned Grandma, the entire room went silent. Even Mr. Parker looked nervous. My wife whispered, maybe we should wait a few days. Tyler nodded immediately. Smart boy. Unfortunately, life hates me, because right at that exact moment, my front door opened, and in walked my mother, holding a casserole dish. I almost passed away. She smiles and says, surprise, I made lasagna. Lord, the timing. Looks around the room, and immediately says, who died? I said, nobody died, Mom. She narrowed her eyes. Now when my mother says, that's not agreement. That's an investigation. She walks over, puts the casserole down, then points at Tyler. What did you do? Tyler practically shrank into the couch. Nothing, Grandma. Liar. Straight to the point. No hesitation. Emma starts crying again. And Grandma's expression softens immediately. Oh, sweetheart, what's wrong? Emma tries to answer, but can't. So Tyler quietly says, Grandma, Emma's pregnant. I prepared myself. Expected yelling. Expected disappointment. Expected World War III. Instead, my mother just blinked. Looked at Emma. Looked at Tyler. Then sat down. And quietly said, well, that's it. Just, well. Yes, ma'am. Are you working? Part-time. She points toward me. Make him work full-time during the summer. Mom, I already planned. I wasn't talking to you. I'm 46 years old and still getting interrupted. Then Grandma turns to Emma. Honey, are you finishing school? Emma nods. I want to. Grandma smiles. Good. Then she says something none of us expected. I had your father when I was 18. The entire room froze. I looked at her. You what? She looked offended. Lower your voice, I'm telling a story. Apparently my entire life had been built on secrets. She continued. I was scared too. Thought my life was over. Emma listened carefully. Grandma held her hand. But babies don't ruin lives. Everyone got quiet. They change lives, sometimes for the better. Even Mr. Parker started tearing up. Meanwhile, Mason whispered, so I'm not pregnant? I said, no, son. Okay, just checking. This kid has one thought every 15 minutes, and somehow they're always ridiculous. Eventually, everyone started relaxing. Emma's mother offered to help with appointments. My wife started talking about school options. Mr. Parker started discussing budgets. And Tyler? That boy hadn't let go of Emma's hand for 3 hours. Then Grandma suddenly looked at Tyler again. One more thing. Yes, ma'am? If I ever hear you abandon this girl or that baby? Tyler swallowed. Yes, ma'am? I'll haunt you while I'm still alive. Nobody laughed. Because honestly, she sounded serious. Then she stood up, grabbed her casserole dish, and said, now who's hungry? Only Grandma could turn a pregnancy announcement into a family dinner. That night after everyone left, I found Tyler sitting alone on the back porch, just staring at the yard. I sat beside him. Neither of us spoke for a minute. Then he quietly said, Dad? Yeah? Are you ashamed of me? And that question hit harder than anything else that day. Because suddenly he wasn't some teenager who made a mistake. He was my son. Still scared. Still 17. Still needing his dad. I looked at him, for the first time all day. I saw the little boy who used to fall asleep on my chest while watching cartoons. I sighed. Son, I'm disappointed in what happened. His face dropped. But I'm not ashamed of you. Tyler immediately started crying again. Man, this family cries more than reality TV contestants. Then he whispered, I'm scared. I put my arm around him. Me too. And that's when Tyler quietly said something that made my heart stop. Dad, I think Emma might be having second thoughts about keeping the baby. What do you mean second thoughts? I asked. She doesn't know what to do anymore. Now let me tell you something. Nothing prepares you for hearing your child say something like that, because suddenly this wasn't just about diapers and cribs. This was fear. Have you two talked about it? He nodded. She says she's scared. Well, son, of course she's scared. I know. And are you scared? He actually laughed a little. Dad, I almost threw up in the bathroom twice today. The next morning, Emma came over, but she looked exhausted, barely speaking. My wife made her tea. Emma just stared into the cup. Finally, she whispered, "Everyone keeps asking me what I'm going to do." Emma started crying. "I feel like everybody already decided for me." My wife immediately moved beside her. "Honey, nobody gets to decide your life except you." Emma wiped her eyes. "I know." Then she looked at Tyler. "And I'm scared you'll hate me no matter what." "Emma, I could never hate you." She started crying harder. "I'm ruining your life." Tyler shook his head. "No." "Yes, I am." "No, you're not. You should be worried about football and college and prom." Tyler laughed softly. "I hated prom anyway." Even Emma smiled a little. Then she said, "I just don't know if I'm strong enough." My wife hugged her. "You don't have to figure everything out today." Emma nodded. And for the first time in weeks, she actually looked relieved. A few days later, things started settling down. Then school found out. Apparently somebody saw Emma leaving the doctor's office. By Monday, half the school already knew, and I knew immediately something happened. "What happened?" Tyler threw his backpack on the floor. "People are making jokes." Emma quietly whispered. "Some girls were taking pictures of me." Emma sat down. They were laughing. Tyler immediately sat beside her. I told them to stop. Then my son, my sweet, peaceful son, quietly added, "And then I got detention." "Detention?" He nodded. I shoved one of the guys. I stared at him. "Son, violence is wrong." "But did he deserve it?" My wife looked at me. "Seriously? What? I'm asking questions." Tyler actually laughed for the first time all week. Apparently fatherhood makes you hypocritical. Then Emma said something that broke my heart. "I just want people to stop looking at me." Nobody knew what to say. Until Mason walked into the room holding a peanut butter sandwich. Looked at Emma and said, "People at school are dumb. They made fun of me because I cried during Kung Fu Panda." Then he looked at Emma. "I like you." Emma smiled. "And I like you too." "Good. Then don't listen to idiots." The smartest thing anyone said all week came from the kid who once tried to microwave a spoon. That night I found Tyler sitting at the kitchen table doing math homework, or pretending to, because he'd been staring at the same problem for 20 minutes. "What's wrong?" "Dad, I don't think football matters anymore." "Why not?" "Because I need money." He pulled out his work schedule. This boy had spreadsheets, because Tyler couldn't organize his closet. Now suddenly he's acting like an accountant. He pointed at the papers. "I can pick up more shifts." "Son, I know college might not happen right away." "Tyler, I just want Emma and the baby to be okay." And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I didn't see a boy. I saw a man trying his best. My son was growing up right in front of me. Then he looked at me and asked, "Dad, do you think I'll actually be a good father?" And before I could answer, we both heard a loud crash from upstairs, followed by Mason screaming, "I didn't mean to!" Now the pregnancy was no longer the biggest emergency in the house. We slowly walked upstairs. We opened Mason's bedroom door. And this child is standing in the middle of the room holding half a ceiling fan blade. Then together we asked, "How?" Mason points toward the broken fan. "I was practicing ninja moves." Of course he was, because apparently my family exists inside a cartoon. "Son, why would you jump off your bed?" "Spider-Man does it." Tyler immediately says, "Spider-Man also climbs walls." And Mason, without missing a beat, says, "I was working up to that." That night, after fixing the fan and grounding Mason from all superhero movies for the next century, life settled down. Or at least I thought it did. 3 weeks later, Tyler comes home looking nervous again. Immediately I knew. Because parents develop PTSD after the first disaster. I pointed at him. "No." He looked confused. "What?" "No bad news today." "Dad," then he says, "Emma had another appointment." "Everything okay?" We heard the heartbeat. The entire room got quiet. My wife stopped cooking. Even Mason looked interested. Tyler pulled out his phone. I recorded it. Then he pressed play. And there it was. Tiny. Perfect. That little heartbeat filled the entire kitchen. My wife started crying immediately, which honestly wasn't surprising. She cries during insurance commercials. Then she whispered, "That's our grandbaby." I still wasn't emotionally prepared for that word. Meanwhile, Mason asked, "Can babies play Roblox?" Nobody answered him. Tyler sat down smiling and quietly said, "Dad, it sounded strong." Something beautiful had quietly started happening. We were beginning to love someone we'd never even met. Then 2 days later, life punched us in the face again. Because around 8 o'clock at night, Emma called crying. Tyler immediately answered. And I watched all the color leave his face. "What? What do you mean the hospital?" My heart dropped. My wife dropped the dishes. Tyler stood up. "Okay, we're coming." He hung up, and suddenly every nightmare possible entered my brain. "What's wrong?" Tyler looked terrified. Then we went right away to the hospital. The entire drive felt endless. Tyler was shaking beside me. My wife was praying. So was I. We arrived at the hospital. Emma's parents were already there. And seeing that giant construction worker looking scared somehow made everything worse. Tyler rushed into Emma's room. And there she was, crying and scared, holding his hand the second she saw him. "Tyler," he immediately hugged her. "I'm here." The doctor eventually walked in. Everybody stood up. Apparently everything was fine. Minor complications, nothing serious. But the doctor wanted Emma resting more. Emma burst into tears from relief. At this point, crying had become the official family hobby. Even Mr. Parker looked emotional. Then that giant man quietly whispered, "Thank you, Lord." This baby already had 2 families loving him before he was even born. And maybe, just maybe, we were all going to be okay after all. Or at least that's what I thought. Because the next month, Tyler made the dumbest decision of his entire life. And it almost ruined everything. Now remember, Emma had always called me Mr. Wilson, even after all the chaos. So when she suddenly looked at me and said, "Dad, can I ask you something?" I didn't know how to react. Mr. Parker loved that girl more than life itself. But somewhere along the way, she had started seeing me as family too. That meant more than I can explain. I cleared my throat. "Of course." Emma sat down beside me, then quietly asked, "Will you teach Tyler how to be a dad?" That got me, because suddenly I wasn't just somebody's father anymore. I was about to become somebody's example. I smiled. "Honey, I'm still figuring that out myself." She laughed. "I'm serious. So am I." Then she smiled and hugged me. And at that moment, I realized something. This girl wasn't just Tyler's girlfriend anymore. She was family. A few weeks later, the baby shower arrived. Now let me tell you something. I've survived taxes, home renovations, and raising Mason. But baby showers? There were balloons everywhere, pink decorations, games I didn't understand, and at least 20 women asking me questions I wasn't qualified to answer. Meanwhile, Mr. Parker looked equally traumatized. We both ended up hiding outside next to the grill. Then we spent 2 hours pretending to check the burgers. Male friendship at its finest. Inside, Tyler and Emma were opening gifts. Tiny clothes, blankets, baby bottles. And watching those two smile together after everything we'd gone through, it felt surreal. Then Grandma walked in carrying something wrapped in a blanket. She proudly announced, "I made this myself." Everybody gathered around. She unfolded it and revealed the most beautiful handmade baby quilt I'd ever seen. "I made one for your father, too." "You did?" "Of course." "Where is it?" She looked offended. "You threw up on it in 1980. Now take care of my great-grandbaby." Emma hugged her so tightly I thought Grandma might disappear. Seeing 4 generations together like that was beautiful. But life still had one more surprise waiting for us. Because about a month before Emma's due date, Tyler came home carrying flowers. I nearly passed out, because this child once gave his mother a gas station air freshener for Mother's Day. Now suddenly he's buying flowers. He walks over to Emma, gets down on one knee. Even Mason stopped eating cereal. Then Tyler says, "Relax, everybody," and pulls out a promise ring. Emma starts crying, and Tyler says, "I know we're too young for marriage right now." Her parents immediately relaxed. "But I promise I'm staying." Emma completely broke down. "I know. I promise I'm going to work hard." "I know. And I promise I'll always love you." By this point, half the room was crying, including Mr. Parker, though he denied it immediately. Something got in my eye. Sure it did. Emma hugged Tyler and quietly whispered, "I love you too." For the first time since that terrible Saturday afternoon, I wasn't scared anymore. Because these weren't 2 reckless teenagers anymore. These were 2 young people trying their best. And sometimes, trying your best is enough. Then finally, 9 months after our entire world changed. At 3 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang, and Tyler screamed the 4 words every grandparent waits to hear. "Dad, it's time!" Our family's biggest adventure was about to begin. "Dad, it's time!" I don't even remember hanging up. 1 second I was asleep. The next second I was wearing 2 different shoes and trying to put my wallet inside the refrigerator. My wife looked at me and said, "Honey, that's the butter drawer." Meanwhile, Mason came running out of his room holding a Nerf gun. "Are we under attack?" "No, your nephew is coming." "Oh." Then immediately asked, "Can I still bring my Nerf gun?" "Absolutely not." 20 minutes later, we arrive at the hospital. Tyler was pacing back and forth outside Emma's room like a man waiting for trial. Sweating, shaking, talking to himself. I asked, "You okay?" He looked at me with pure terror. "Dad, I saw things." "What things?" "The contractions." That boy looked traumatized. Emma's mother was inside helping her. My wife was inside helping her. Nurses were moving everywhere. And Mr. Parker was sitting in a chair staring at the wall like Vietnam flashbacks had returned. I sat beside him. Then he quietly whispered, "Remember when our biggest problem was them staying out past curfew?" I nodded. We were so young back then. Meanwhile, Tyler suddenly stood up. "I need to be strong." Good attitude. Hours passed. Long hours. At one point, Mason fell asleep holding a bag of chips. Then around noon, we heard it. A cry. Tiny, loud, perfect. Then the doctor opened the door, smiling. "Congratulations." I don't even remember standing up. I just remember Tyler crying. Then the nurse brought him out. Tiny little hat, tiny little fingers. There he was, my grandson. Tyler looked at him like he'd just seen a miracle. Maybe he had. Then the nurse handed the baby to him. "Wait, he's slippery." The nurse laughed. Tyler carefully held him. "I made him." I laughed. "Technically, son, Emma did most of the work." Even Emma laughed from the hospital bed. Exhausted, beautiful, happy. And when she looked at that baby, everything changed. She's a mom now. Then something happened I will never forget. Mr. Parker walked over. This giant construction worker who spent 9 months pretending he wasn't emotional. And when they placed that baby in his arms, that man completely melted. He whispered, "Hi there, little buddy," and immediately started crying. He handed the baby back after 30 seconds. "Nope." "What? I can't see him while I'm crying." Then Mason walked over, looked at his nephew, and asked, "So when can he play Roblox?" The entire room burst out laughing. Life after that wasn't perfect. The baby cried all night. Nobody slept. Tyler learned diapers the hard way. Emma learned that babies apparently hate schedules. My wife practically moved into their house, and somehow I became the official midnight bottle guy. But little by little, we figured it out. Emma finished school. Tyler kept working. Both of them graduated. The baby took his first steps, said his first words, and somehow turned every adult in the family into complete idiots who celebrated whenever he sneezed. Then one evening, almost 2 years later, I walked outside and found Tyler sitting on the porch with his son asleep on his chest. The sunset behind them. Everything peaceful. I sat beside him, and after a long silence, he quietly said, "Dad?" "Yeah." "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me." I looked at my son, then at my grandson, and smiled. "Son, families aren't perfect. We mess up. We panic. We argue. But we stay." Tyler nodded, then looked down at his sleeping boy, and quietly said, "I finally understand why you worried so much." I laughed. "Congratulations. You're officially a dad." And as I watched my son rocking his little boy under the evening sky, I realized something. That Saturday afternoon when he walked into my driveway with Emma crying beside him, I thought our lives were over. Turns out, they were just beginning. A few years passed. Life became normal again. The baby, well, toddler now, had completely taken over everyone's lives. My wife had approximately 14,000 pictures of him. Mason taught him things nobody should teach a child. And Tyler? Tyler surprised everyone. Because the boy I thought had ruined his future refused to give up. He worked, finished school, started community college, and somehow balanced work, classes, and fatherhood. Was he tired? Absolutely. The boy looked like coffee was keeping him alive. But he never complained. Then one afternoon I came home and found Emma asleep on the couch, their son asleep on her chest, and Tyler in the kitchen making dinner. Not microwave food, real food. I stared at him. "Who are you?" He laughed. "Funny? No, seriously, my son used to burn water." He smiled. "People change." Emma changed too. The scared 17-year-old girl who arrived at our house crying that day, gone. In her place stood a strong young mother. One evening we all gathered for our grandson's 3rd birthday. The house was loud, kids running everywhere, Mason somehow wearing a superhero cape, Mr. Parker grilling burgers, Grandma spoiling everybody. And while everybody celebrated, I stepped outside for some peace. A few seconds later, Tyler joined me. Then Emma. Then my grandson climbed onto my lap holding half a cupcake. He looked at me and said, "Grandpa?" "Yeah, buddy. I love our family." I nearly started crying right there. Because he had no idea. No idea how much fear existed before him. No idea how many sleepless nights happened before him. To him, we were just family. Tyler looked at me, smiled, and quietly said, "Remember when you thought I ruined my life?" I laughed. "Son, I definitely thought that." Emma laughed too. Then Tyler looked at his little boy and softly said, "Turns out he saved mine." Maybe he did. Because sometimes life doesn't go according to plan. Sometimes the future you imagined disappears. Sometimes everything changes overnight. But every now and then, something beautiful grows out of the chaos. And if there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that love doesn't make life perfect. It makes it worth fighting for. And as I watched my son, his wife, and my grandson laughing together under the backyard lights, I thanked God for every unexpected chapter. Because the story I feared the most ended up becoming my favorite one.